And like you said, the germ of the idea was born out of the real happenings that were going around in the country. Similarly, what about your characters? Start with the main character itself, Master O. We have a country which is full of godmen, and we have a country full of godmen with political inclinations, or at least very close to the powers that be.
So the journey of Master O began there because I was really, really keen as a writer, as an author, to understand what is it that compels a person to go out into the unknown. And as Master O says in his book, this journey is not about gaining power or anything. This journey is about understanding people.
It also helped that it was happening during the pandemic and we were all closed in and shut out from the rest of the world. We did get a lot of time to think and ponder and try to find answers to very complex issues of our times.
As a beautiful start to the evening, we're going to be having parts of excerpts of book reading from the Master O by Dheeraj Singh. It's going to be a dramatic reading, a dramatic presentation of some of the episodes in the book and some of the characters in the book. And this is going to be done by a very young and upcoming talent that we have with us, Kruthat Kotnis. And he's going to be taking us through some of the highlights of this book here to help us better understand what Master O is all about. Who is this creature, Master O? What are his superpowers? It's superpowers not as we understand as the Avengers and with the costume drama of the underpants out. This is a very serious superpower that one has of being able to manipulate people's minds, being able to manipulate his own mind in terms of telepathy, and also manipulating your physical sense in terms of teleport yourself and be omnipresent in several situations as well. There's one very, very interesting incident, and for someone like me who's a television journalist and who does news debates on a daily basis on primetime shows, I was very spooked about this one incident in the book where a live interview is going on and suddenly the interview just disappears from live camera. And when Dheeraj wrote this book, I said, what is this? I'm completely spooked out with this. What will I do if this if this really happens? Because this is such a crazy world and there's so much happening right now and there's so much that has happened. And who knows, Master O, could that be a scary reality? Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Hopefully not. But at least the book can prepare us for a lot of crazy things to happen. But nevertheless, let's hear it for Kruthat this evening, who's going to take us through some of the highlights here.
I have many names, but everyone calls me Master O. A name is anyway a distraction to who you are. Can a name really describe a person? I mean, can it fully? We are all cousins here. That means we are all related. I am essentially a teacher. And if you were to ask me, Master O, what is it that you teach? I would say I'm a teacher of nonsense. or no sense. I am a teacher who makes his students wonder. I don't believe what I have is a religion or a sect or a movement.
All right, so Master O, we have a caller. He has a very important message for you. I would ask my team to put up his details onto the screen. Are you there, caller?
I am Zulfikar. I am just a messenger. I repeat, I am just a messenger. I was given the exact time to make this call on your show. I am saying again, I am a messenger, and I am simply repeating what I have been asked to say to, Master O. This better be important, Zulfikar. I do think this is very important. Okay, so Zulfikar, tell us, what is your message? The time has come. It seems that you, which means all of us, that is, all of us humans realize that this battle is unfightable. Therefore, we, the Ibharis, have chosen the path of dialogue. What are your conditions? Speak freely. We are all friends here, Zulfikar. I am there for you just as much as I am for anyone else.
What we just heard is the biggest breaking news of the year. It seems that the Ibharis want to come to the table. I mean, this is great news. Because if there is anything that we know about them in the past few years, is that they are violent and persistent and never will be the first to wave the white flag. We often ask only those questions that our minds have been trained to ask, while ignoring the mountain of evidence that points to something else, something contrary. Why is it so scary for us to wander around the mountain of evidence?
Congratulations, Dheeraj, on your debut book, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. I mean, I really couldn't put down the book. I just had to go on turning the pages to know what's happening next. It's chilling, it's thrilling, and it's something like I had never really read before till now. Actually, the book is it's a sci-fi book. It's a science thriller and also a political thriller. Probably his years of experience as a journalist, I think that made it easy for him to put the politics in. And and you just don't think it's the first book. In fact, I had someone asking me which are the other books he's written, because this doesn't sound like a first book at all. I'm really look forward to lots more coming out from this table. You know, I think it's been said before that it reminded people of H.G. Wells, and for me it was like a combination of, maybe Wells and Arthur Clarke and a bit of Agatha Christie thrown in, and also a bit of James Hadley Chase, because the pace never ebbed. It was very, very racy. But putting it all together must have really taken some doing. So what I really wanted to ask you, right at the beginning, is how did you come to think of something which is so complicated, which is, which has so many layers? I kept turning the pages, flipping back to make the connect. So what was it that led you to think up this plot? And did you have it all, right at the beginning? Or was it a book that evolved as you went on writing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sunanda, for that lovely description. So the book actually had been in the works, but not as it progressed. There was a certain mystery to the writing involved. I felt a lot of times I was on autopilot. The story was progressing on its own, and the thing about you said that it seemed like a book that I'm not a first-time author. In my mind, I had written many books, but not a lot of them saw the light of day. They were sort of half-baked and not fully completed. But this one had its own energy, its own mechanisms of moving forward, which was very interesting for me. I had broadly, the germ of the idea had come when I saw the protests happening during the CEA and NRC protests in Delhi especially. It was a very, hurtful to see so many young students going through the police bashing and barricading and really, really harsh treatment by the Delhi police. That was the journey, that was the starting point, because Master essentially is about protesters, people who are standing up against the might of the state. Their methods are very unorthodox. ways of, they of course have special powers, but the germ of the idea actually came from the NRCCA protest, which in my mind was also something that was unfairly, that was a law or a proposed law that was very unfairly written and finally imposed on the public, which were not open to it. So at the heart of it, it was about talking about justice in a democracy, which is everyone's right and prerogative. But somehow, with these students coming out on the streets and speaking against this government, it just showed how, even in a democracy, the rights and prerogatives of people, students, all kinds of people can be abused. So that is the starting point of the book. But Mastro itself takes on many layers. It's not just a straight off telling of an event that happened a few years back. It is layered because I believe we are living in a very complex reality. We are living in a reality that is informed by AI, that is informed by these massive technological advances that we had not even thought of a few years ago, not even a decade, I'd say. So the reality of our now is extremely complex, and that I wanted to be reflected in the book. How, if you ask me, it was not very clearly plotted and planned. It was just a way of working its own way through my hands and through my mind. It also helped that it was happening during the pandemic and we were all closed in and shut out from the rest of the world. We did get a lot of time to think and ponder and try to find answers to very complex issues of our times. And I think everyone in his or her own way was trying to fathom this new reality, this new changed world which the pandemic had brought forth. So I was also working on my interpretation of our realities, our advancements, and I think quietly like an oyster, I was just spinning my tail. And I'm so happy because the kind of reception it's been receiving, it's really, really wonderful and heartwarming for me. Because for a long time I did not know what the hell I had written, what had come out of me. It was a mystery to me, and I didn't know how it was going to be taken in and appreciated. But when I started seeing the early reviews, it was very encouraging. And I think those 3 years of writing the book had really paid off, and it was really a mystery, and I didn't know where I was going, how it was going to end, and nothing had been worked out. So that is the bare truth of the fact that I was writing on autopilot. It was not planned and plotted. It was just beginning with a germ of an idea of how justice or how freedoms of people in a democracy should be addressed.
That's really incredible. You know, in fact, when I was reading, I kept wondering that how is he going to finally solve all of these issues and how is it going to come together? And I think what also made it more complex was the fact that you used a first person for every character. I mean, usually it's just one person who's taking you like a narrator through the book and you know who's talking. But you have to really, really focus and figure out as to who's this person who's now talking, because you jumped from one character to the other. And like you said, you know, the germ of the idea was born out of the real happenings that were going around in the country. Similarly, what about your characters? Do any of them also, do they owe their birth to a certain figure or a certain someone you had in mind? I mean, to start with the main character itself, Master O, we have a country which is full of godmen, and we have a country full of godmen with political inclinations, or at least very close to the powers that be. So you can't help but think that Master O does resonate with some person you already know of.
Yeah, so I'm glad you put that question. When I was in the newspaper, I had a very interesting beat which was about spirituality and new age stuff, because it was close to the end of the last century, 99 onwards. And there was a lot of interest in new age stuff. So I was actually meeting a lot of godmen. I was meeting and interviewing and trying to understand their journey. How did their journey begin? What was it that got them interested on this path, because a lot of them had given up things that were earlier dear to them. They had taken a new path, charted into really unknown waters. So meeting them in the background gave me a sort of food for thought. Like, how would it, I began to imagine, like, how would it be for a person to have all the luxuries and affordability of every nice thing in the world, and suddenly one fine morning they meet a person, or they have a vision, and they give up all these things and turn into someone else, a godman. Of course, India has many of them, and many godmen end up disillusioning their followers, and that has been the story of our country. So the journey of Master O began there, because I was really keen as a writer, as an author, to understand what is it that compels a person to go out into the unknown. And as Master O says in his book, you know, this journey is not about gaining power or anything. This journey is about understanding people. And meeting all these godmen and spiritualists and experimenters, one got an idea that at the core of all spiritual journeys, all seeking, there was this thing about understanding what is it that binds us together, what is it that makes us human. And I think that became the foundation of the character Master O, though I wouldn't say he's based on any particular godman or any particular person. He's a composite of many, actually. He's a composite of many, plus my own curiosities about this whole dimension. I was always an outsider, but a very interested seeker. So I guess that comes out in the character of Master O. Also about the fact that a lot of the versions or chapters begin with a person speaking. It's written in the first person. I personally tried many different ways of telling their stories, second person, third person narration, but I think somewhere down the line, for the kind of story Master O was working out to be, the first person narrative became the most powerful and most important in my view. So it was a method of selecting which was the best suited to the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was really intriguing, and it really kind of it kept revving up your interest. And why O? Why Master O of all the alphabets? And after having read, I can now rest assured it's not based on the godmen we have next door, Osho. So that was. But why in particular would you choose?
Yeah.
So with Master O, I actually thought of many names. I began the story by a very sort of generic Babaji, because I just wanted him to be a Baba. So Babaji was the first choice. But then somehow it was not working out in the context of the future, because so many Babas and so much is known about a Baba. Then I wanted to make him slightly more complex. So Master O actually came out to be because I did not want him to have this completeness. No one knows everything about him. His antecedents are not well known. There is some amount of mystery. Also, I wanted to have a certain, he's also very powerful because he has these gifts that he calls them, about reading people's mind, and being in many places at the same time. So I also wanted him to have a certain amount of vulnerability. I didn't want my character to be a Superman. He had to have some vulnerabilities, and I think the O part, or the part that he's trying to hide, is his vulnerability. For whatever reasons, I don't know, maybe a sequel would be there which explains Master O's motivations. So Master O came out after a lot of thinking of what would actually fit this person, this character, who is one of the main characters of the book, and also very powerful. So I think Master O just sat on him like a perfect crown, and then there was no looking back after I arrived at that name.
But I guess there are no prizes for guessing the inspiration behind the very angry TV anchor who every night would come on television and give his opinions to the world and wouldn't let anyone else talk. Jishnu.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you recognize that anchor, because
it wasn't too hard.
because he had been particularly irksome to me personally, and a lot of people I spoke and met with. They were, and somehow it has just come to pass that a lot of clones have developed over the years of that particular style of anchoring, that particular style of putting everyone in the dock and trying to be judge, jury, and executioner of your show. It sort of goes against all the former tenets of journalism one has grown up learning and understanding about neutrality, about both sides of the story, and so on. So Jishnu's character, yes, particularly, I hope he ends up reading it someday and realizes what a caricature he's become in the eyes of people. And I'm so happy you noticed it.
Oh, of course. Okay, you know, your book is replete with a whole number of chilling scenes. I mean, scenes that suddenly take you, I mean, just you're taken aback by them. And my favorite one is, you know, when those location tags are being, you know, by Sashimi, and she's trying to figure out that where was everyone when they got those videos, and the face that comes, you know, that's really one of my favorite scenes. I remember, you know, kind of pausing and thinking about it for a long time. I want to know which is your most favorite part or scene, or, you know, anything which kind of explodes in the face of the reader, that part of the book. Yeah. As an author, I think all authors have a couple of big spots in the book, which are their favorites.
Yes, yes. So like Zahid mentioned, hers most chilling was when the interviewee disappears from the seat, and yes, yours was Sashimi connecting the dots. For me personally, I think Ek's journey, when he is brought to this place, he has absolutely no idea where he's brought and why he's brought, and there's just no purpose, no thought into what's happening to him. That is when he discovers this form of the elephant, which Krutat had also read, on the road. But that's not my favorite. My favorite comes much later, when he's taken to the stepwell and he is in the middle of nowhere. It's a place that is familiar, yet it's very strange to him. And one of his biggest fears is the fear of drowning. And once he starts hearing these voices, the voices are more in his head, or he cannot see anyone, but he's being told to just start going towards the well and ultimately walk on it. And how he discovers the sort of safety net that comes around this really difficult and implausible, unthinkable for him, because he's phobic, situation that emerges, and he realizes that this place that may seem hostile and for no fathomable reason happening to him is actually not such a bad place. So that is my favorite.
You're right. And that was the other chapter in the page I really liked, you know, also because it had this inspirational message to it. I mean, there are a whole lot of people who are phobic about a number of things. So I thought this is one way also of telling how you actually can conquer a phobia, you know, by the sheer dint of your mind. And it's really, you know, something which is all in your mind. So, you know, of course the sci-fi part is there, and one can understand all that went into it, you know, but there's also a lot of wisdom in the book. That is one thing which just stayed with me, because you have so much coming out from Master O. So he's a very deep character, and what he says is quite profound. So where did all that come from? Did you also have a book like The Goat's Blanket that you read, and you kind of, you know, you took stuff out of that? Did you delve into a lot of reading of spiritual books, or, you know, self-help books? Because there is a lot of deep wisdom in I mean, it just runs through all through the book, almost parallel to the sci-fi part of it.
No, thank you. That's really, really wonderful to hear. Because the layers is something I personally find very interesting, any work of art or book or literature, and I try to give my creation also those layers. Personally, the journey of that layering or that wisdom that you call sorry, comes from, as I said, that I had met, there was a time when I was doing this page for the newspaper where I was meeting a lot of people. I wouldn't call them godmen, because godmen is a sort of journalistic cliche that we use all the time. They were essentially seekers, and they had come from all over the world, very different cultures from ours. Because in India, if you've born and brought up in India, you have a certain understanding of this spiritual underlayer which is there in all aspects of our lives. We see it from cradle to grave, everyone has some amount of spiritual understanding. It's there in the air. But there are people who leave. A lot of them I met were from America, from Britain. They have left a very, very static and materialistic culture. And they, I believed, were true seekers, because they are not, this kind of understanding of spirituality is not in their backyard. They have really made that effort to go out of their comfort zone to understand. And one of the best writings I've heard on Indian thought is by Westerners, because they are describing everything like threadbare. Because a lot of Indians, when they write, they just tend to take all knowledge or all wisdom for granted. But when a Westerner is writing about Indian thought, there is this sort of beauty in it, and the small details which are presented, which was amazing. So I read David Frawley. He was one of used to be one of very good writers on Jyotish and astrology, Indian astrology, and the way he connected how it's not just a science of stars and planets, it's a science which is deeply connected to your everyday life. So the wisdom of Master O comes from these various people I've met, interviewed, also had the also read, and I think because I have always wanted to write since I was in college, but this book has been like a 20-year writer's block, if you can call it that. And so finally when it came out, I think it was imbibed with all my passion, all my study, all my understanding of life and perspectives. And it's come out. It's been unexpected for me as well, as much as it has been for readers. The way it ended, the way I said this is the end, it was unexpected. And for a few months I just did not go back to it, did not look at it, because I just wanted to take that space and time away from that book. And then when I went back, then of course there were some changes which one did, but it has been a surprising journey. I think for any writer, any creative person, the journey of creation is the most interesting part. And after it's done, it's for the others to enjoy. But you as a creator, you've done your bit was the most interesting when it was happening.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, one more why question. Why an elephant? Why the elephant?
So the elephant in the room is like such a well-known thing that what is there right in front of our eyes, we are often blind to it. We often do not see it. It is right there staring at us, and we are not able to see it. So elephant was because of that. And I also think that our culture, our belief system is such that the possibility of all what we call sci-fi today has been approached and sort of dealt with. For a long time I was thinking the idea of one of the names that I gave the elephant mutants in the book was Ganeshi, but then I was thinking that that's too well known, or it's too understood. So why not have something which is not understood? Then I started researching on what is the really, really old name for the elephant, and I came across the Ib, which is a Rig Vedic description. Ib, of course, means other things as well. And from the Ib, it came Ibhari. So it's interesting for a writer, because what a scientist is trying to do with his experiments, the writer is also trying to do with his understanding of words and grammar and how words connect. So two words on their own mean something different. Similarly, two elements on their own are something different, but you make the elements interact and combine with each other, they turn out to be something else. And that same journey happens with a writer when he's trying to think of new things, think of new experiments through his writing, and the language play becomes important. The language actually, once you found a solution to a knot in your head, the language makes way for another plot developing, another storyline developing, and that's how the elephant. And the elephant, I think also the third reason would be because they are full of this amazing sentience, and they have or are known to have these memory which extends from the collective to the personal, and it's huge, massive things they can remember from very, very tiny specks of time. The thought of an elephant seemed so humongous and unthinkable, which was exciting to approach. And finally, the elephants or the Ibaris found a life of their own, and they just pulled me along, and I went.
Yeah, I can imagine, because that really was fascinating. I mean, it was, and you know, and I guess elephants also, they're the ones, the wisest animals of all, large-hearted, wise. I think everything which also kind of tied in with the spirit of the book. And you just talked about the ending, you know, and you also never thought how this would end. And while, you know, the book started connecting, as you go through the pages, you know, everything starts making sense and all the connections come together, I still feel the end was a bit open-ended, if I can say that. Not all the dots were connected, not all the things were explained which intrigued you in the book. I mean, right from maybe Sashmi's, that surgery when she was coming out of the anesthesia, and what is it that she went through really wasn't explained. Or X, you know, his confession of the porn star confession. So all of these still did not, you know, reach maybe the culmination that one was looking for. So is it because, like most OTT serial, there's a part 2 of the book where you will give us the explanations, or is it something that you wanted to leave to the reader's own interpretation and imagination?
Yeah, that's a very, very nice question, and I really like it. But I think it was a bit of both. And as I just said, also the journey was not very clearly plotted and charted. That this is how each character is going to end up being. As a creator, I was also going by the progression of the plot with each character's motivations. Where is this person heading? Where is his journey heading? And it was interesting to watch, also frustrating at times, because there were times when the characters rebelled and they did not want to do the things that I wanted them to do. They just wanted to have their own say and voices. Ek's porn confession, for example, was something else planned, but Ek said, no, this is not what I want for myself. I want something more. So that's where it went. I am actually as intrigued as you or the readers, because I would think that this is a story which is not quite complete in itself. There are points where things are left unsaid, so maybe there is something which is going to come out as a sequel or something that will connect the dots. We are living in a time where the stories are not complete. The stories are abrupt. The stories are left to the imagination, left to be completed in the minds of the viewer, reader, or whoever's watching it. So I am really not sure how I'd like to answer that. I would definitely want to write another book, but would there be a sequel? Does Master O do something which makes me want to tell his story further, progress it further? Because I think by and large the story, the progression of the story has been very intuitive for me, and that's how I would like to carry it forward. So let's see.
More as a final question I wanted to ask you. So what is the message that you want to give through the book? What is it that you would want the reader to take away from this book after they've finished reading?
I think the message, I'm not so sure. The message of, because there are many messages inside the plot. There is a message about how the media should be behaving. There is a message about how we can live our lives more intuitively by being in touch with our real core self. There is a message about being more compassionate to people who are less fortunate. There is a message about AI also, because there is this tremendous fascination as we go on further into the 21st century about what all technology can do for us. And every technology is ultimately time-saving, and it'll help us save time, it'll help us do something else. But that something else doesn't turn out the way as we had planned or thought. A lot of people have said that a lot of things in the book, characters, just stay with you for a long time, and that is more important, because I don't want to. Even as a painter, as an artist, I make abstract works. So as an artist, I don't want to paint the whole picture. I just want to give you a jhalak, a bit of a peek, and the rest I leave it to your own intelligence, imagination to work out, because ultimately Master O is a work of imagination. It is like a dream that has been manifested in our time and space with characters which are very relatable to all of us.
In fact, I was thinking of Inception when I was reading the book. I really thought it had so many traces. You know, it's about the same kind of film, the same genre of dream and sci-fi, and characters and the kind of layers and complexities. So, well, I hope so.
Thank you.
This happens soon.
I would love that too. Thank you.